definitely do. Okay, so I want you to think of the platform, and there's a reason I use this image. So think of the platform sort of as your roadmap or the path you would like to follow during your time in office. And so if you're not planning to serve yourself, just consider this in how you would help a candidate that you're supporting kind of develop this, or how do you would help support them in that on this path, right? Like what would be your role on the path as a support person? So the platform defines your values essentially, and it tells people, it tells people your why. And it's also going to take into account the values of your supporters, your likely supporters. So you need to spend some time, right? Thinking about who are the people I want to reach, who are the people that already I know will support me, that 10% that he talked about in the video. These are the people that have that gut instinct. But then also, who are the people that maybe connect to that 10%, who are also likely supporters. It will also list your ambitions. So ideally what you would like to achieve, what you would like to work on while you're in office. It's going to list your actual policy plans. So if you have specific things, if you're somebody who actively follows, say your county council, your municipal council now, and there's specific policies you're aware of, you would talk specifically about those policies and like to see change. It's going to define your goals. And so I always suggest that everyone think of their goal as sort of when I am done, when I have finished my time in office, when I have accomplished what I want to accomplish, what is that? So instead of saying we will, say we will have, right? Think of it as when I get to the end of this, I will have done the following, right? That's your goal. Those are your goal statements. And then it's also going to explain how you will achieve those goals. So that's an important thing that you never want to overlook, is how you're going to get there. I think a lot of times, not even just in politics, right? But people have great ideas. People have awesome views and plans and things they want to do, but they actually completely skip over the planning of the how. So that's really important to focus on as well. Now we're going to talk about planks. Has anyone heard this term before? I'm just curious. Okay. So the planks are essentially what builds your platform. So they're a concise statement regarding your belief on a policy issue. So I would say no more than 1 to 2 sentences, quick and to the point. They don't give all of the other background stuff we just talked about because that's the larger platform. So really just that kind of concise statement, all of those little things that build the bigger platform. So I put together just like a very basic, again, fake Marika platform. And I've made up the term Lambton Countyans because I decided I liked the way it sounded. So my platform is that all Lambton Countyans will have access to affordable housing. So that's what I would love to see, right? Like if I was running for office, I would be telling people, this is what I want to see happen in this community. So I would connect it to my values by saying, I believe, right? I believe everyone should have a right to basic income, safe and affordable housing, equitable treatment. This is my belief statement. It ties back to my values of treating everyone, equally and making sure they have equal opportunity and equity, period, right? That's my I believe, that's my value statement. And then here we talk about my my sort of plans. During my time in office, I will work to increase affordable housing units. Still kind of vague, doesn't really talk about specifics, doesn't really talk about how I'm going to get there, just sort of a basic statement. And sometimes you'll notice, right? Candidates will often just make these statements and then it stops there. So I want to encourage you to go farther. So my specific goal, I've now just, this is my end goal. My goal is to increase geared to income housing units by 75% in this county, right? That would be my goal. It's a big goal, but that would be my goal. And now here's the how. I will do this through research, working with local experts, consulting with community members who are in precarious housing, who are homeless, who are struggling to afford housing, and through advocacy with all levels of government. right? So I'm being very specific. And you could be much more specific in the how, depending on what the particular platform is. But again, that's my, this is how I want to get here, how I will get here. And then here's my plank. So if you're looking at the things that build my platform, all community members should have equal access to safe, secure, affordable housing. So we'll just go back to it for a second. Any thoughts around building a platform?
I have one.
Sure.
Marika.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you're building your platform, like how many issues are you focusing on? Like 100, 7?
I would definitely recommend keeping it connected to those values and passions, right? Because those are the things that you care the most about, and people are going to notice that, right? And they're going to connect with that caring. I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't have other things you want to accomplish when you're in office, and it's certainly like during a debate or during a question period, you could touch on some of those things. But I think you want your platform to be the things you are the most passionate about, that you care the most about, and connect the best to your values.
Okay, thank you.
And for those of you who have served in office, Helen, you can tell me whether or not you think that's accurate, because I would love to hear that from you.
And Marika, sorry, can I just say, I know that when we were building Anne Marie Gillis's platform, we went back to we went back to the city's strategic plan. Like what was approved by council already in their strategic plan, and what wasn't being addressed, and what really, what issues mattered to people through consulting. And so then we had built like a 5-point platform that was based on, infrastructure, health and wellness, so that sort of thing. So we kept it to 5.
Yeah, and I think that's really good. And doing that research is really important, right? Knowing, like, if you're going to identify something, if you're really passionate about something that, say, city council or county council, whomever has overlooked, and you feel like that's a gap and you'd like to spark change there, just do the research to know, right? Are you the only person who cares about that? Maybe that doesn't need to be one of the main pieces of your platform. Maybe that can kind of be buried down a little bit farther. You want to make sure the things that you're the most vocal about are also the things other people care about, right? And I'm certainly guilty of that. Sometimes I'm very, very, very vocal about stuff that nobody really cares about. Those are the things I can probably avoid, right? Because if I want to get elected, I want people to connect with me based on my beliefs. And if they don't really care about that stuff, they're not going to make that connection. Helen, did you have any thoughts that you wanted to share as someone who served?
Well, I was thinking while I was listening, and it's a long while ago since I first ran for council. I was elected in 1991, but I do, and in those days, I didn't know that I should develop a plan like this. This is good. This is good stuff that can be used for more than just running for election. When I ran for council, I had a cause, and that's what I based some of my purpose on. It doesn't matter what council it is, there's always issues. And in St. Thomas, those were well known. So I focused on some of those as well, in addition to my purpose. One of the things that I wanted to do, and I was telling you that earlier today, was I was on the board of Elma College, and we needed the help of city council, and we weren't getting it. So I decided I should get involved on city council. I didn't manage to save Elma College, but because it quickly became apparent that there are many causes other than the ones that you're focusing on. But having a platform like this, there were a couple of thoughts that went through my mind. One, this developing your platform helps you to ensure that you stay on your key messages. Some of the things we'll be talking about later in our workshop sessions is how to develop those key messages and how to focus on those. And this type of platform will certainly help you with that so that you don't get off track or be led into areas that are really not what you're focusing on, and then you end up being misrepresented in the press. So those are my thoughts off the top of my head.
Those are great. And I think to build just on what Kirsty said before we move to the section about support, I will say that, I mean, there's definitely value to doing research and knowing what the community cares about and what they're most likely, like what the votable issues are. But if they don't connect with your personal values, you have to make a conscious choice on whether or not that's something you want to stand up for, because you don't want to be seen as disingenuous, right? So if people know that that's really not an issue you've ever cared about, and all of a sudden you're this vocal mouthpiece through election, people will see through that. So you do have to make a conscious decision, you know, is this something I want to run on, knowing that other people care about this, or is it probably not my best, you know, the best thing for me? So just consider that as well, because again, values are trending. So we want to make sure that you're staying true to your values, right? Because people will notice if you're not. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about developing your support system, because this is really important, right? And you're not going to make it through an election season. You're not going to make it through sitting on city council with the kind of, you know, feedback you can get without a good support system in place. So this is actually something I found. It's so funny. I found that it popped up on someone's Instagram stories one day, and I was like, this is really good for this training. So this comes from Mel Robbins online, and she did it as 5 people. And so I'll talk about the 5th one, but I didn't include it here because I personally don't like the 5th one. And so we'll go through whether or not it's necessary, and you can make that decision yourself. So these are the people you should have on your team. You need a motivator, right? You need someone who inspires you. So this may be someone who's ahead of you kind of in the game. So it could be someone who's already serving in office, or someone who has run in the past, or who may also even be running against you, right? They could be running against you at the same time. But they're also someone who's always available to lend a helping hand when you need advice, right? This is someone who inspires you because they show you what's possible when you put in the work. And they also inspire you to do big things, right? You need someone like that on your team, even if they are a competitor. Sometimes our competitors are some of our biggest motivators because we aspire and they inspire us to achieve those goals as well. So the next is your safe space. So someone who will protect you. You have to have somebody that you can be 100% comfortable with and that you can be yourself around. I'll add a C to this before we send this PowerPoint out because I forgot that. Somebody who makes you laugh and also reminds you not to take yourself too seriously, and someone who's always there to listen, right? Everybody needs somebody that they can vent to, someone you can be, right? Totally comfortable with all of the time. You want someone on your team kind of in your corner who challenges you, right? Someone who questions your ideas, someone who is not afraid to tell you like it is. They may be your complete opposite, which is not a bad thing. It means they can give you different perspectives and also help you pay attention to your blind spots, right? Their advice also might be uncomfortable in how honest it is, but it's also coming up from a place of commitment to your success rather than criticism. Challengers are great people to have in your corner. You also have to listen to your challengers. So that's the other piece. You have to be open to their feedback, right? Which sometimes is tough. And then the coach. So someone who pushes you. You need someone who's kind of in your corner, pushing you out of your comfort zone, getting you to try new things. They will also be someone who joins you to try and do these new things, so you're not totally alone in it all the time. So if you are terrified of public speaking, but this is something that's really important to you, they're the ones who are going to help push you to do those things in small ways so you can get prepared, right? They may not be someone you hang out with all the time, but you can always count on them to get over obstacles. So that's where I ended it. But also the other person you could have in your corner is a cheerleader, right? So someone who just like without thought is your yes man and supports everything you do all the time. Personally, that does not work for me. One of the labor and delivery nurses when I had my first child was like, you can do it. And I wanted to punch her in the face. Like those are just not people that work for me, but I know that's a personality thing, right? Like I prefer challengers. I prefer people who hold me accountable and make me uncomfortable and think outside the box. But if you're somebody who really just needs like overt positivity and optimism, then you can put a cheerleader in your corner and I fully support you. I just didn't include this because I find, running for office is a very realistic thing and you need to stay grounded. And sometimes cheerleaders aren't great at keeping us grounded. They're great friends, but they're not the best necessarily at keeping us grounded through this process. I feel like Ronnie will disagree with me on this because I feel like Ronnie's a bit of a cheerleader and I can see you laughing. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, or if while I was kind of identifying these people, you instantly thought of people in your life and you're like, oh, that person's the challenger. That person's my safe space, right? I'd like to know if you were able to kind of identify those people.
Yeah.